Alrighty, good day, my friends. My name is Tracy Repchuk, and I'm the host of Reach Millions TV, an entrepreneurial lifestyle and learning channel where I educate and introduce you to some of the greatest powerhouses in their field. Now, as an entrepreneur for over 37 years, I've had the good fortune to appear in Forbes over 27 times, speak in 39 countries, appeared on NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox, won awards from the Senate, the Assembly, the White House, and President Obama. I've written 9 #1 international best-selling books. And along that journey, I reached millions with my message. And I knew how important it was for those of you who had a message. So I wanted to show you how to do this with specific trainings and by introducing you to the people that can help you to find more leads, make more sales, and reach millions with your message. So you can find out more about me at tracyrepchuk.com and reachmillionsacademy.com. Now, today I am joined by Marie Elizabeth Mali, who is a relationship alchemist and speaker and shows individuals and couples how to cultivate deeper love and a connection in their relationships. Marie Elizabeth, welcome to the show.
Hi, Tracy. Thank you. It's great to be here.
Oh, now I noticed you have a master's in Chinese medicine and over 20 years of client work. Tell us more about that and how you integrate that into helping people to become authentic leaders in their relationships.
Well, what I love about Chinese medicine is that you are always considering what's called the terrain, meaning the underlying systems of the body and not just symptoms. So that translates very much into how I work with people on their communication, on their relationships, on really anything that's holding them back from being the fullest expression of themselves. Mm-hmm. So what that looks like is I don't just give tips for, here's what to say, here's how to communicate. I'm also considering the underlying inner experience that's informing the communication. Because as we all know, you can say all the right words and they land or they don't land. Mm-hmm. And there's reasons why it doesn't land. And so I work a lot with that to clear that up so that people's message and communication in their relationship, in their work, with their families is potent and clear and true.
I absolutely love that. Now, one of the things I wondered too is, Chinese medicine is a very broad scope. What are some of the elements that you can apply with somebody?
Well, I don't actually literally practice acupuncture anymore, but I've translated some of the ideas into my relationship work. So for example, the liver channel or the wood element is really the element of direction. And it's the image for wood is a general commanding the troops. So in your relationship, you want to have your own general in its proper place, meaning you lead when it's time to lead, but you sit back when it's time to sit back. Because if the general is just usurping all the power, then you have a dictator, right? Mm-hmm. So I look at how clear is someone with being able to lead when it's time to lead, to step back when it's time to step back. How fluid are they with that? And how clear are they with the direction of the relationship? Because the wood element is also responsible for focus and direction. So it really, I think relationships work best when they have an underlying purpose, an underlying vision, when you know where you want to go. This can be as simple as we know we want to have kids together and raise a family. I mean, it doesn't have to be some highfalutin thing. It can be, I want to have a relationship to raise a family. And it can also be, I want to have a relationship to mirror to me who I really am so that I evolve and become a bigger, the best version of me possible. So any kind of vision for the relationships, that's true. With the heart element, which is fire, that's very much about communication. So I talk about cultivating skillful communication, loving communication, saying it true and kind, compassion, that kind of thing. The spleen, the earth element is very much about the mind, about how our thinking is running. If we have a lot of worry, if we have a lot of overthinking. And so I work with people to clarify their minds, to think more clearly, to see more clearly, what's actually happening instead of the projections of what they think are happening.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the water element, I've adapted that to be what I call flow mastery. So have you set up your relationship and your life to access flow as much as possible? Or are there roadblocks, like you're not getting enough sleep, or you're not moving your body enough, things like that, that make it hard to show up at your best?
Mm-hmm.
And then the last element, which is the kidney or water element, the lungs, the other one was metal. Sorry. And so the kidney element or the water element, that is all about the battery pack. What is the fuel for your life? And so I call that element in my work turned on sex, turned on life, because to cultivate your own excitement, your own turn on for what you're doing in and out of your relationship. Do you love your work? Are you turned on about the kind of exercise you do, or are you just forcing yourself to do something because you should? I like to support people in getting away from the shoulds and finding the things that actually light them up so that they want to do them.
Fascinating how you've converted, especially in the era we are in and have been for the last, year and a half now, in that, it's hard to, do acupuncture, any of those traditional modalities on anybody because we simply can't see them. Now, as someone who has been married now for 27 years, I work with my husband
Congratulations.
24/7. Thank you. I know all about kind of the essential and necessity of really good communication in a relationship. Now, your essential skill is around clarity of communication so that this creates kind of that loving relationship. Describe your process here a little bit. And do people come to you like before there are issues or usually after to help correct them?
Really a mix of both. What I find in the folks that I work with is they tend to be growth oriented, always want to grow and do better at the thing they're working on, whether it's something in their work or whether it's relationship. They want to see themselves more clearly, be more potent and powerful in the relationship. And so sometimes they're coming because there is a problem that needs to be fixed. And sometimes they're coming because they just want to expand and grow and have more access to their genius. And relationships, to me, growth paths there is on the planet because of the constant mirror of who you're being in the relationship. Just like entrepreneurship, right? In entrepreneurship, like everything reflects back to you who you're being. So that I work very much with that level, like who am I being? How am I showing up to the relationship? If I tweak my energy like this, what happens? If I change my communication like that, what happens? And so I work in a very iterative and dynamic way to help people fine tune really the communication skills and the energetic skills that will serve them and their partner, business partners, clients. Sometimes I work with people on congruent communication in their sales because there's a way that they're showing up in their sales that isn't working well. So whatever the need is, basically, I work with that.
Yeah, I love the range. And again, you kind of mentioned that you have these deep insights into relationship dynamics and how to improve them. So what are some of the most common issues or dynamics that a couple needs to address and preferably maybe even know about before going into a relationship?
What comes to mind is speaking your truth, because especially women, we're conditioned to be nice, to be accommodating, to put everyone else first. And while that's a beautiful quality, if we're doing that at the expense of ourselves, that breeds resentment. And then if we have a lot of resentment, that leaks through our communication. And no matter what we say, we may say things in the perfect, pristine, way we've been taught to say it. But if there's resentment underlying, it creates what I call, or what's called, a cognitive dissonance on the level of the listener, because they're the words they're hearing that seem fine. Like, okay, I get what this person is saying. That's nice. That's clear. But they can also feel this undercurrent of something else. And what often happens in a listener when there is a cognitive dissonance happening is they forget what you said, they react in a way you don't expect. You might have said something as simple as, please take out the trash, and they get defensive. And you're like, why are you defensive? Well, it's probably a resentment.
Mhm.
So I work with folks to clear out the resentment, to communicate before they get resentful, how to do it clearly. Like one simple tip is, when you have a communication to make to one another, ask if it's a good time, because a lot of communication gets dropped or misheard when we're talking at someone and they're not available to listen because they're doing something else at the time. So by asking if it's a good time and getting their buy-in to listen in that moment, or later, if later is a better time, it really respects both of you. It's respectful to yourself because you get full listening, and it's respectful to your partner because you're not hijacking their attention when they should be paying attention to the thing they were doing before you came along.
Now, I'm wondering too, do you work with a lot of women, and is sex one of the big topics that perhaps they either may feel resentful or not heard on?
I do work with a lot of women, and sex is it's a, especially in longer term relationships, it is a dicey topic, in the sense of either sometimes they feel pressured, or their desire has gone away, or they're not getting their needs met, or there's lots of things that happen for us around sex in long-term relationships. And so I do see that a lot, and I love to work with people with simple exercises to begin to rebuild connection before we even get to penetrative sex, to just rebuild connection, find that juice again with one another, where they walk in the room and your heart flutters, right?
Mm-hmm.
To access that again. There are specific exercises you can do that don't take a lot of time, that just reawaken that spark.
Well, I'm sure that a lot of people out there will be very thrilled to know that there are solutions and answers for them.
Absolutely.
That's good. Now, your work has been featured in Thrive Global, Sway, and Forbes. And an interesting fact, though, is you're also an underwater photographer who has a thing for sharks. So when did this begin, and what are some of the best places you've been?
Oh, well, I fell in love with scuba diving in 2000. I've been diving for almost 20 years. And I picked up my first camera a couple of years later, but didn't get serious about it till 2008, when I got my first big DSLR housing and all of that. Mm-hmm. And I've taken a bunch of classes, and it's just become such a passion for me, because it requires you to be present. And I love, as you can tell, I love being present. I love things that drive me into the present moment. It's just where all the aliveness is. And you can't pose a shark, you can't pose a fish. So you have to be, calculating, where's the light, where's the animal going to go, how do I be in the right place? And I just love being immersed in the moment that way. And my favorite place for the last several years, I used to shoot a lot of macro, which is tiny, tiny things. Mm-hmm. But then several years ago, I transitioned to shooting wide angles. So shooting bigger things like sharks and rays and dolphins and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And so my favorite place to shoot all of those things is in Mexico, off the coast of Baja. It's an archipelago called the Revillagigedos archipelago. Mm-hmm. And it's a group of islands you can only get to by boat, and you live on the boat for the week, and it goes around. There are resident mantas and dolphins and sharks who are always around there. And it's just one of my favorite places in the world to shoot. But for macro, I love Indonesia. So
now, if you get a chance or have not been yet, I'll definitely suggest a couple of places. Obviously, the Great Barrier Reef is an incredible, place.
I would love
I'll
to
tell you
there.
My favorite, and put this on your bucket list because you would very much appreciate it, because the colors are spectacular and the light is so unbelievable to a huge depth. And that is a place called the Maldives.
Oh God, I've been wanting to go there. Yeah, I really want to go
so
there.
If that is on your radar, or it isn't, go and do some research on it. Follow the Maldives on Instagram in particular, because I keep following it because I can't wait to get back. Right. And so
you've been.
Both places I mentioned, I've been, and they are some of my favorite places, like you say, kind of on the planet. Right. And you in particular would appreciate them specifically because you
Uh,
you go underwater and you're a scuba diver, and those two places are definitely off the hook for that.
yeah, when I see my friends' pictures from the Maldives, I'm always insanely jealous.
Oh my
They
God,
have
there
they have the giant
it's
mantas
crazy.
there too. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Everything. I've never seen so many colors,
Mm.
including, it actually was almost triple the colors of the Great Barrier Reef. So
Wow.
you could just live under there, I think, for a couple weeks and still come up with new photography.
Yeah, I'd love
So
that.
I just have to say, Marie Elizabeth, that I really thank you for being here on Reach Millions TV, sharing your amazing story and insights with our followers. So what I'd like to know is, what is the best way for our viewers to connect with you and continue the conversation?
Well, the best way is to go to my website, which is relationshipalchemy.com. And you can find a contact form there and reach directly out to me. And if you're interested in really assessing, doing a personal assessment on how you show up in relationships, I invite you to take my quiz, which is at relationshipalchemy.com/quiz. And there you'll receive follow-up resources with suggestions for how to expand how you're showing up, how to, grow through different stages of relating. And it's called what's your relationship style is the name of the quiz. And I invite you to take that quiz and receive my follow-up trainings and resources, and really deepen your own relationship journey, how you relate to yourself and how you relate to others more skillfully, with more authenticity and freedom and choice and agency, and ultimately alchemy. How do you alchemize the barriers that have been in the way of having the love and depth of connection that you've been desiring? How do you alchemize what's been in the way of that and live at the fullest potential that you can live?
Yes. Now, for those, I definitely 100% encourage everybody to go and do that. Dave and I did not get the magical relationship that we have today without working on it, right?
Amen.
We have for 27 years before we got married, during the marriage, and we will always continue to grow, because as we do that, we grow together. And
I love
one,
hearing that. That makes me
uh,
so happy to hear.
it's we grow in love more and more every year, every day. It's so incredible because it compounds, right? When there
It
is no
does.
barrier or obstacle, like a resentment or like something that has occurred, all it does is grow exponentially, right? Otherwise, it is those things that flatten it, like an issue.
Yep.
And then you have to kind of start the expansion again. And so it's so beautiful when you incorporate, of course, great communication into your relationships. You mentioned, I'm going
Can
to
I
bring this.
ask you a quick
Yes,
question?
absolutely.
Have you found, because what I see is when people's relationships are really on, their work actually improves. Have you noticed something similar since you both work and live together?
Well, absolutely. Everything improves. I mean, not just the work relationship. And we're unique, right?
Yeah.
The fact that we work together 24/7 on top of everything else, it makes for it could be a very volatile situation because there's balance. What do you say at home? What do you say in the office? What do there's a fine line. And that's again where the art of communication really comes into play. But not just does the business do well in that situation, but so does our communication with parents, friends, family.
Mm,
So do our, I'll call them other dynamics, right?
yeah.
Our desire to, as we're doing well, help others, and our desire to
Yes.
help the planet, and our desire to, reach out to more. That's the beautiful part too, is when the kind of lower elements, such as yourself and your relationship with your husband, et cetera, are going well, then you can expand out even deeper and further.
Right.
And when you're doing that together, it just
Yeah.
makes for a far more enjoyable journey, right? When you're a
Yes.
couple. It's totally fun. And I'm going to ask that one question too. You brought up the word alchemy, alchemist. I'd love for you just to give a little definition for anyone who doesn't know what that means.
So alchemy in the ancient meaning meant they did practices and mixed together things to turn lead into gold, for example. But on the mystical or psycho-spiritual emotional level, alchemy is used to talk about something similar, really turning the challenges, the heavy parts of our lives, the places that we might want to ignore or suppress within ourselves, actually working with them to integrate them so that we can show up as our whole self in an integrated way. And that's the goal, really, having access to more of yourself, having permission for all of yourself to exist so that you're not hijacked by these shadow elements that tend to, poke their heads out at the most inopportune times if you're not dealing with them. So alchemy really means, on the relationship level, how do you work with the things that have been barriers or standing in the way of your fulfillment in such a way that they become integrated and become part of your power?
Awesome. Great explanation. And for those listening as well, understand too that it's not about suppressing who you are, right? It's about the release of, and as you said, the integration of, without worrying, right? Without guilt, without shame, without all of these pieces that may come up, because that's you, that's who you are. And that's a piece of, or that's how you communicate, or things of that nature. And it's just good to know that, alchemy is really about, bringing it all together in a way that works for yourself. And of course, everybody else. It's the beautiful part about the alchemy. And as you said, how long has it been here, right? Very long time.
Well, it has. And it's really this beautiful sweet spot between total permission for yourself to be who and how you are, and refining how your communication is working so that you are heard more effectively, right? Because you could just sway to the side of like, I'm me, take it or leave it, but you don't realize that maybe you have a communication style that's not very effective. So, you want to have permission for yourself, and you want to learn how to communicate effectively and meet other people where they're at too.
Yeah, absolutely. So very good. Well, thank you again. Be sure to connect with Marie Elizabeth Mali. And to help you reach millions, be sure to grab my free gifts and resources from jointracy.com. So stay tuned to this channel for more exciting episodes of Reach Millions TV here on the Live in the Hive broadcast network. And until next time, I'm Tracy Repchuk, and here's to your continued success.